Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
A lot of utilities have been doing the same process of inspections and analyzing data and conducting maintenance. They've been doing that for the past 20, 30 years. And it's been the same workflow that they've conducted for decades. And so our ability to plug directly into that workflow and just provide enhanced insights is really valuable to those folks.
You're listening to the Drone Radio Show podcast, the show about drones and the people who use them for business, fun, and research. Hosted by Randy Goers.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Goers, and welcome to the Drone Radio Show podcast, episode 437. How are AI and drones revolutionizing utility inspections? For that question, we head to Stanford, California, to speak with Kaitlyn Albertoli, CEO and co-founder of Buzz Solutions. Buzz Solutions leverages AI and drone technology to revolutionize how power utilities inspect and modernize their infrastructure. The company's innovative software platform, featuring tools like PowerAI and PowerGUARD, uses advanced data analytics and machine learning to automate visual inspections, enhancing the safety, efficiency, and resilience of the electric grid. Their mission is to empower utilities to proactively monitor and manage their systems, reducing outages, preventing wildfires, and ensuring reliable energy delivery. Committed to driving innovation, Buzz Solutions equips teams with cutting-edge solutions to analyze data, collaborate seamlessly, and export actionable inspection results, all aimed at fostering smarter, more stable infrastructure for a sustainable future. A Stanford University graduate with a background in sustainability and finance, Kaitlyn is widely regarded as a thought leader in the energy and technology sectors. She frequently speaks at industry events and conferences on topics spanning utilities, AI, and infrastructure resilience. Before co-founding Buzz Solutions with Vic Chaudhry, Kaitlyn worked as a wealth management analyst at J.P. Morgan Chase. In 2021, her leadership and vision earned her a spot on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. Together, she and Vic are tackling critical challenges like grid-sparked wildfires, power outages, and storm damage with a bold, tech-driven approach. In this episode of the Drone Radio Show, Kaitlyn talks about Buzz Solutions, how AI and drones are transforming traditional utility inspections, and the challenges of implementing and scaling these technologies. But before we hear from Kaitlyn, I want to stress that your support is the heartbeat of my podcast. Every episode is crafted with you in mind, and your generous donations ensure I can keep delivering the content you love. Whether it's the price of a coffee or a more substantial contribution, every bit helps to defray the cost of production. Donate today and be a vital part of the podcast's continued journey to greatness. To donate, go to droneradioshow.com/donate. And if you can, please subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform and leave a nice review and rating. It really helps improve the podcast ranking among the many thousands of active podcasts today. And by the way, if you have a great story on the use of drones that you'd like to share on a podcast, contact me at randy@droneradioshow.com. So let's learn how drones and AI are helping power utilities inspect and modernize their infrastructure with Kaitlyn Albertoli of Buzz Solutions. Let's pick up the interview where I ask Kaitlyn to introduce herself.
I'm Kaitlyn Albertoli, co-founder and CEO at Buzz Solutions.
Kaitlyn, tell us about Buzz Solutions. What does the company do?
Buzz Solutions was launched from Stanford University in the spring of 2017. And at Buzz, we are modernizing energy infrastructure with actionable intelligence. That's our mission here. And our typical end customers are power utilities. So what we do here at Buzz is we help bring visual intelligence to utility inspections, meaning we take all sorts of visual data that's collected from a variety of different sources, whether that's drones or helicopters or ground-based robotics. And we have a platform that helps manage that data, analyze it, and turn it into actionable information.
So Buzz Solutions primarily provides a software platform. You don't fly any drones, right?
That's correct. We don't touch any sort of data collection. We are purely a software play, meaning once the data is collected from a variety of different sources, we're here to help make sense of that information. So we work very collaboratively with drone service providers, drone manufacturers, and then we just provide the software piece of it.
With your primary customers being in the utility and energy sectors, what do they mainly use your software for?
We squarely fit in the operations space for a lot of utilities. To provide a couple examples, utilities will go out in the fields and conduct inspections of their transmission infrastructure, which is the high voltage infrastructure. You see those big towers out in the middle of nowhere typically. And then you'll see distribution inspections, which are those lower voltage lines that you'll often see around cities. Typically, they're smaller wooden type poles. And then they have substations. So that's interchanges of where they can step up or step down the power. And those are sites that they have, substation sites. And then they have generation facilities, whether that's renewables like solar or wind or hydropower. And so utilities are tasked with inspecting all of that infrastructure. And Buzz Solutions helps by taking in all of that data that's collected as a part of those inspections. And we provide an automated way for utilities to manage that data, meaning they can easily visualize the data that's been collected. We help them analyze it with our proprietary machine learning, computer vision algorithms, which are two ways of saying, they're artificial intelligence powered algorithms. And then we help utilities push the results of our image analysis directly into their work order management system, to their asset management system, or to their geoinformation systems, their GIS systems, as they're called, for mapping their infrastructure and inventorying the components on it. And so that workflow typically is all housed in the operations departments, and we'll work with those various teams across, the transmission, distribution, substations, and generation teams to help utilities get actionable information or actionable insights from the inspections they're conducting.
What makes Buzz Solutions stand out from other companies offering similar services?
Buzz Solutions is really focused in the infrastructure space. We have more than 10 years of data across more than 50 utilities that we've worked with and collaborated with over time. And we have a real depth of utility understanding and knowledge, meaning we can deliver a highly accurate solution with pre-trained algorithms to our utility customers in a very quick time frame. We can also support a lot of utility-specific requests. And we really understand the utility workflow. So where Buzz differentiates ourselves is we're not just providing, highly accurate algorithms or results from the data that's collected, but then we take it a step further and we embed that directly into a utility workflow, which means they can get the insights where and when they need them so that they can take action on that information for maintenance without, really interrupting their workflow at all. We're just helping provide enhanced value as a part of the utility workflow. And why I mentioned that workflow piece is it's really important to understand that a lot of utilities have been doing the same process of inspections and analyzing data and conducting maintenance. They've been doing that for the past 20, 30 years. And it's been the same workflow that they've conducted for decades. And so our ability to plug directly into that workflow and just provide enhanced insights is really valuable to those folks.
Can your platform analyze past data already collected by a utility to provide insights as they move forward?
That's a great question. It's a question we actually get asked a lot, so I'm really glad that you asked. Yes, we do analyze a lot of historical data sets. In fact, we are working with several utility customers where we have access to data sets they collected more than 10 years ago, and we're analyzing those data sets for a couple of different reasons. The first being we help them understand the history of that asset understand, for example, on a tower. We help understand the maintenance that's been conducted over time and how the components on that structure have degraded over time. So we're able to get that time series analysis, and that's particularly valuable. And then we're able to work with historical data sets that utilities collected that they may not have fully analyzed for a specific use case. And so we're able to help them analyze that data set so that they can still derive value from it instead of having to send a crew out to go collect a whole new data set. One specific example of that is we work with the utility, currently one of our great customers and partners. We were able to analyze a historical data set for them to identify all their insulators on their transmission towers. And so they recognized that a specific type of insulator was failing at a much faster rate than some of their other types of insulators. And they needed to understand where those insulators were deployed on their transmission towers. And this utility has tens of thousands of structures that they had collected a historical data set from, but they hadn't analyzed that data set for insulator identification. And so Buzz was able to provide that value for them based off that historical data set.
How is AI used in your systems, and how does it improve outcomes?
It's interesting now, AI is such a big topic of conversation these days, and it's kind of woven in through most conversations, it seems like, about the trends of AI. And Buzz actually launched as an AI company almost 8 years ago, long before there were a lot of these conversations about the use cases of AI in utilities. I mean, it was really just starting at that point in time. And so our whole platform, we have two different offerings that we bring to the utility space. Our first product is called PowerAI, and our second product is called PowerGUARD. And both of those platforms are essentially based around our algorithms. And so we use AI, artificial intelligence, in a visual sense, meaning we take in all sorts of visual data, whether that's images or video feeds, and we're able to process that data with our proprietary computer vision algorithms. And we're able to identify numerous components or anomalies that exist within those images or within those frames to be able to provide those detections. And all of that is done with pre-trained machine learning and computer vision algorithms.
Do utility personnel need any specific knowledge requirements to interpret or use the software effectively?
No, we've made our platform, our PowerAI and our PowerGUARD platforms, very user friendly for someone that doesn't even have software experience. Some of our utility partners and our utility customers that come to us, they're linemen or field technicians. This may actually be their first time using a software platform as a part of their daily workflow. And so anyone can be easily trained on how to use our platform. We have a couple tools that simulate what it would be like for a lineman to draw a box around an image as if he or she was doing it on a standard inspection report. So we're able to basically simulate a lot of that work that they've been doing for numbers of years. And we're able to do that in our platform. That tool is called a human in the loop tool, where we take in subject matter expert feedback by just having them draw bounding boxes on the images that our algorithms have analyzed. And they're able to then edit the results of the AI, delete labels that were detected, add new labels. And all of that goes back to our team and to our algorithms to continually refine the accuracy of those algorithms. And it's a really easy tool. And that's one of the ways that a subject matter expert like a lineman or a field technician who has great expertise in the power space that may not have any sort of AI experience is able to engage with our platform and continue to get better AI-driven results.
What are the challenges of inspecting utility grids, and how do drones help overcome them?
Drones are a huge advantage and a game changer for this industry. When we started in 2017, utilities were just starting to buy and test their first drones at that time. And fast forward to where we are today, it's incredible to see the number of utilities that have their own in-house drone program. One of the utilities that we're working with, for example, when we started engaging with them 4 years ago, they had just bought their first 2 drones and they had their first couple of pilots. That utility now has over 100 drone pilots and is collecting hundreds of thousands of images per year. they're on track to collect millions of images per year here in the next year or two. And it's just incredible to see that scale and how fast that's taken place within the utility sector. Traditionally a much slower moving sector. It's really exciting to see how these utilities have latched on to drones. And I think there's a couple drivers for I guess you'd say reasons why utilities have latched onto drones so quickly. But the first is, of course, the safety. Utility crews can now be inspecting lines from the ground instead of sending helicopters really close to the infrastructure, which is a highly dangerous job. And so being able to inspect from the ground is much safer. The second thing is the results are so much, the data sets that you can collect and the results you can derive from those inspection data sets are so much better when it's collected from drones. We see a helicopter may collect an image or two images per tower for a high voltage tower, let's say, transmission tower, but a drone may collect 50 to 100 images per tower. So just the granularity of understanding of what you can inspect with a drone is so much more powerful. And then lastly, we see that automation with technologies like drone in the box are revolutionizing the space as well, because that allows utilities to get to scale, meaning they can remotely fly and inspect their infrastructure with a drone that's docked in a substation or along a transmission corridor. And they don't have to send crews out to the fields every single time to conduct these inspections. And so it just unlocks a world of possibilities for more frequent inspections, more cost-effective inspections, and safer inspections for the industry as well.
Failing utility transformers can sometimes spark a wildfire. Can these inspections help minimize that risk?
The ability to conduct more frequent inspections unlocks an immense amount of opportunity for utilities to be more proactive in their maintenance approach instead of being reactive. Historically, utilities just inspected a portion of their infrastructure per year. And as we've seen, infrastructure is continuing to age. There's more and more stress on the grid as we look at things like electrification, the number of electric vehicles and new electric devices that are coming online. And then we also look at renewables coming online at accelerated rates. All of those things put immense amount of pressure on our grid to be stable and to be reliable and to be resilient. But as the infrastructure continues to age and as there's degradation of the components deployed on those towers and poles, it causes them to be at much more risk for failure. And so there's a greater need for more frequent inspections to understand where anomalies exist or where potential faults can exist on the infrastructure. And then as they start to happen, you can do earlier detection of those components and earlier detection of early signs of failures, as opposed to waiting until it's too late. And so that's where we see that it's incredibly powerful with wildfire risk mitigation or restoration post-storm as well.
You mentioned how drone-in-a-box technology could help scale operations. What other advances could aid scaling, and what challenges exist in adopting this technology for widespread use?
It's a great question. We see that regulations is one of the big drivers for scalability in inspections. The BVLOS waivers, which is called the Beyond Visual Line of Sight waivers, allows for utility inspectors to fly the infrastructure without having to have an observer there to watch the drone. And that's what's going to allow drone in the boxes to scale even faster. But it also means that you don't have to have crews stationed at every single one of your drone flights, meaning you can work more drone inspections in tandem, allowing for more scalable inspection workflow. The second piece of it, and this is really where buzz fits into the equation, this is where I have a lot of conversations, is it's one thing to buy a drone and to train a pilot, but there is so much more to the success and scalability of an inspection program that is beyond just data collection. So when you look at an inspection program, it really is a program. It's not just, buying a drone, training a pilot, getting a license, and going out and flying. But there's so much that happens after data collection. When you look at how do you manage this mass amount of data? How do you analyze this mass amount of data? And then how do you turn it into action or, track whether this data needs action to be taken or not? It's really important. And so to provide a couple examples, we see many utilities when they buy drones and they start flying drones for the first time, They're going from collecting thousands of images per year to collecting hundreds of thousands and millions of images per year once they're scaling this program. But oftentimes, the team on the back end who's historically been analyzing that data set isn't scaling as well. And so there's only so far that you can take, manual analysis. Plus, you have to have a system in place to seamlessly manage and map that data set so that it doesn't just, get stored on a hard drive somewhere, but that you can continue to use that data set and easily reference it over time. If you're going to make the investment in collecting the data, you should be able to get more than just a one-time use from that data set. And so we're big believers in helping utilities think about the program, the inspection program, more holistically so that they can see better return on investment, better outcomes, and ultimately they can get to scaling on a more effective basis. And the reason that, I kind of go into talking about some of that is you should really be thinking about the scalability of the program from the time you buy your first drone. Asking questions about where is the data going to be stored? How am I going to have my team interact with that data set? And what is the outcome I'm hoping to achieve from this inspection will all be helpful in setting the right parameters for building a scalable inspection program.
How important is it for your drone manufacturers or partner providers to understand the energy field, its workflows and challenges? Is there an advantage to having partners who know the industry?
Absolutely. It's really important to look at, specific industries like inspections, for example. The ability for a drone to autonomously fly a highly energized pole or tower is not an easy challenge. Like that is a very difficult challenge to fly a highly energized line, be able to do so close to the infrastructure. That's a game-changing win for the industry. And several drone companies have done a really great job of cracking the code to be able to do that. Skydio, who is one of our partners in the space, has done a tremendous job of autonomous flight planning, flight mapping, and building an autonomous flight software. So really exciting to see someone who is diving into the utility industry, does understand what it takes to deliver a solution to this audience specifically. That makes it so much easier for someone like Buzz, who is working with the data sets collected from a Skydio drone. That makes it a lot easier for us to engage and for us to be able to drive more value earlier on. So I'd say it's a huge win. And I think what's really exciting is we're seeing more and more companies are now looking into the utility industry and are making amazing investments in innovation on the hardware side for bringing more innovative solutions and more utility-specific solutions to the market. So I think we're really just at the tip of the iceberg, but I'm excited to see what's to come as more of the large companies enter this space too.
Can you share a real-world example where your drones and AI technology made a tangible difference?
Absolutely. There's several different examples. So I mentioned the one about the insulators early on. We were able to help identify exactly where insulators were placed in the field so that a utility could optimize the replacement of those insulators in a more effective way. We're also doing a great analysis on a variety of different types of inspection data sets as well. So for a data set that we're working with, it was collected from drones. There were tens of thousands of structures that were collected. And by using Buzz on the back end, we were able to save, within the first 4 weeks of this utility using our solution, we were able to save 50% of analysis time per structure for that utility. And those insights allowed them to significantly reduce their total maintenance ticket backlogs. They were able to substantially reduce the number of untended to maintenance tickets that they had outstanding. And that was because we were able to help them optimize the priority of those tickets. Another example with a different utility, there was a drone data set that was collected on their transmission and their distribution infrastructure. We were analyzing over 10,000 structures for them across both transmission and distribution. When we analyzed this data set, we realized that as this data set was analyzed, that the geospatial information system, the GIS system, which houses all of the asset information for the pole locations, we realized that log that the utility had was more than 50% of their structures locations were in the wrong location in their database, if that makes sense. So meaning we were able to help them update their system of record for more than 50% of their assets. And why that's important is every time a utility sends a crew out to a tower or pole, they're sending the people out, they're sending the truck roll, sending the crew based off that data that's in the GIS system. They're saying, hey, here's exactly where this pole is located. But if the pole location is off by a mile or two, you're sending a crew to a wrong location, and they ultimately have to go kind of track along the line to figure out where the anomaly is that they're trying to fix. Where are they actually going to conduct maintenance? And in this specific example, the terrain was highly mountainous. And so they were sending crews climbing, quite literally climbing up mountains, only to find out that it wasn't the right pole that was located on that mountainside. And so by using Buzz, we were able to, within a matter of hours, help them correct their whole system of record so that they had an exact update of all of their pole locations.
Given my 35-year career in city planning and some in post-disaster redevelopment, I'm curious, in a large-scale disaster where a community is heavily damaged, can the utility data that you've collected help with rebuilding efforts, perhaps even improving the rebuild?
Absolutely. It's a really great question. And we are hearing more and more about this. How can we use more consistent inspection data sets to understand what the infrastructure looked like before a storm? And then how do we understand the anomalies that exist, or the component failures that exist post-storm? What was actually caused by the storm itself? And so being able to have a baseline data set before the storm happened, and then use our AI tool after the storm as well, allows us to be able to look at the differences and say, okay, here's what we can say was caused by the storm specifically, and here are the anomalies that are significant enough where you can't re-energize the line. And you should send your crews to go upgrade that specific tower or pole so that you can re-energize faster. So the way that Buzz can help in that environment is we're able to analyze data in a much faster way than a field crew has been able to do manually in the past. And so that helps to, of course, restore those components right after a storm. But it also goes beyond that by being able to analyze which components fail at faster rates and understand which parts of the territory are at risk for greater storm damage based off the number of anomalies. Buzz is able to help utilities preemptively maintain and upgrade their infrastructure so it can be more robust in a post-storm environment.
With AI advancing rapidly and permeating various systems, how do you balance leveraging its capabilities with avoiding errors that might affect your system's reliability?
I spend a lot of time speaking with utility folks about this because especially in the utility world, accuracy is so incredibly important. We certainly don't want to miss an anomaly by having our algorithms just miss out on an anomaly, meaning a false negative, as we call it. But we certainly don't want to alert utilities to way too many detections where the AI is providing them a lot of information, which is not that valuable. We call that a false positive. So it's kind of that sweet spot of really reducing our false negatives. And Buzz puts special emphasis on making sure we have a very, very low false negative rate, which means we're not missing a lot of anomalies, but also striking a sweet spot of not alerting the utility to so many different types of detections that it's no longer relevant. And so I go back to how we ultimately launched Buzz back in 2017. So we spent the first 2 years just building our commercially deployable algorithms. In that time, we worked with utilities across various regions. We worked with tens of thousands of images that have anomalies, and hundreds of thousands of images ultimately that had anomalies. And we worked with subject matter experts to understand how to properly label these images and understand the different types of detections. What does that mean to this specific subject matter expert? And how can we incorporate that into the training for our algorithms? And that ultimately allowed us to tune and train our algorithms to a high enough accuracy that utilities were confident in ultimately deploying it into their systems. But it is certainly an ongoing conversation that we're having with utilities. We are speaking with them, what is the baseline accuracy that they are expecting of these algorithms? And how can we work with them to tune the algorithms to be highly accurate and very specific for their data set? AI is not here to replace the human, but it's meant to be a tool and a guide to help the utility personnel make better decisions, better and more data-driven decisions. And so as we're having conversations about, where does AI fit into their workflow, we're really clear to differentiate those two things. We're here to help sift through mass amounts of data so that the utility personnel can just look at the top priorities and ultimately make a go, no-go decision. But we're not here to replace that person because, their job and their subject matter expertise is incredibly important in the space, and they should be the ones making that reason-based decision for maintenance itself.
Tell me about the company's origins. Did it start at Stanford University?
Yes, we launched from the School of Civil and Environmental Engineering at Stanford. My co-founder, Vic, and I launched the company from a class that was focused on building a startup in the energy and sustainability space.
How did you come up with the idea? Was there an aha moment, or did it evolve over time?
It very much evolved. Interestingly, when we first had the idea for Buzz, we were looking at wind turbines and how could we use drone data to optimize the placement of new wind turbine installations. And we were speaking with folks in that industry who said, wind is definitely a big market. We see that there's a great use case for drones in wind. But have you looked at what's happening in the power space? And they actually recommended that we speak to some utilities because at that time, as I mentioned earlier, utilities were just buying their first drones or they were putting plans in place to build some of these drone programs. And so we actually leveraged the Stanford Alumni Network to interview 35 investor-owned utilities, IOUs, as they're called in the space, which are large utilities across the US. We ended up interviewing 35 IOUs who all had the exact same story. They were collecting a lot of data, or they had plans to collect a lot of data, and they were looking to scale their drone programs, but they didn't have the infrastructure on the back end to analyze all of those data sets. And in those conversations, we were speaking with some utilities from the time they collected imagery with drones to the time that they analyzed the data, in some instances was more than 6 to 8 months of time. And in that time, the data sets become outdated. You don't truly know the health of the infrastructure as it stood during that inspection. And you're opening up the utility to mass amount of risk that a failure could occur in between those two timeframes. And so it was really interesting. Almost every single utility that we spoke with had that same story.
How did you go from that initial class idea to actually founding the company?
So after we had spoken with about 35 utilities, we said, okay, we clearly are onto something really real here. And every utility said, if you can build a platform that would help us make sense of this information, it is definitely something we'd want to try. And so from there, we ultimately launched the company in June, and we went right into an incubator program that was in the city of Columbus, Ohio, and it was co-sponsored by American Electric Power. And so that was some of our first learnings of kind of diving deeper into the utility space, figuring out the need finding for the utilities themselves and how could our platform really fit in if we built it out. From there, we worked with research institutes like the Electric Power Research Institute, EPRI, and others like the Tomcat Center, which is Tom Steyer's grant for innovation transfer. And we really started testing out, okay, is this platform something the market really needs? Does it have feasibility? And how can we bring something like this to the market? And so that's spent about 2 years doing that. And then we commercially launched in 2019.
After launching commercially, what was the biggest challenge in growing the company?
Getting access to proprietary data sets is incredibly difficult in this space. Utility data sets, especially images of their infrastructure, are incredibly proprietary, and utilities really don't share their data sets willingly. And so at that time, it was when utilities were building their drone programs and they were transitioning to the cloud from on-premise. And so it took us a long time to work with utilities to be able to get enough proprietary data sets that we could train highly accurate algorithms and data sets that had enough variability. As I mentioned earlier, drones were really just coming onto the scene at that time. And so we were still doing a lot with helicopter data sets and then with ground-based data sets as well. And we needed algorithms that were going to work off a variety of those non-standardized data sets. And so making sure we had enough variability in the data was probably one of our biggest challenges early on.
When working with utility companies, Was building trust and relationships key to accessing their data, or was it more about their urgent need for a solution?
More of the first than the latter. It was building trust and credibility with these utilities. We see our utility customers as our partners. I mean, they are just as much our partners in this space as we are looking to bring a solution that is going to specifically meet their pain points and is going to address a lot of the challenges that they are facing. And so we had to be really flexible in how we worked with, and we still are very much to this day, very flexible, but we want to meet utilities where they're at and work with them around those specific confines and requirements. So we've done extensive work on bolstering our cybersecurity so that we can meet utility cyber and IT standards because, of course, cyber and IT governance is paramount for our utility folks who are dealing with our critical infrastructure. So it was a lot of, how can we work with these utilities to help support them? And then how can we also work with other trusted players like research institutes in the space to continue to bolster that credibility and our trust with those folks.
With 8 years since the company began, what has your experience taught you about the drone industry?
It is so incredible to see how fast the drone industry has moved in a more traditional space. And I know we've talked about it a bit, but to see how many utilities have secured their full beyond visual line of sight clearances is incredible. Also to see the number of BVLOS waivers that have been granted, nearly doubling year over year for utilities is amazing. So I'd say, just to see the speed of which the industry has continued to grow. And I still feel like we're just at the tip of the iceberg of drones in the utility space. We're just starting to see all these great use cases scale for utility drone inspections. And so I'm really excited to see what's going to come in the future as a part of these programs. Beyond that, I think we're seeing so much more trust and openness for utility personnel to engage with these types of technologies and use them as a very valuable tool in their toolbox. And so no longer are we seeing drones just operating as, in an innovation program or just in a drone team, but we're starting to see drones proliferate throughout the organizations, and more operators are starting to take advantage of drones as a tool as well. And so I'm really excited to see the doors that will open in the space. But I'd say just over the past couple of years, I think it's a steam engine that's really picked up speed. And so I look forward to seeing what's to come.
What advice would you give to other entrepreneurs?
Now is a great time. There is so many different applications. And I know we've really taken a dive into the energy space today, but beyond just infrastructure, there's so much opportunity for drones. But I think I'd say, really understanding what is the key pain point that you're solving with the drone is really important to understand. Drones are not, perfect for every use case and application. So I will just put that out there. So if you're looking to start a company that's oriented around drones, definitely be very clear about what the pain point is that you're trying to solve. And make sure that you're checking in with your customer base or with your partners and building that strong understanding of the market, because that'll help shape ultimately what your product is that you're bringing to market. And it'll also help influence how fast you can scale it in the sector. And so I'd say that's just something that's really important to keep an eye out for is, how are you addressing that pain point with drones, and are drones the best way to solve that? And if you have the answers of yes to both of those things, then I would definitely, take a step further, because I think now is a great time to be in the drone industry more broadly.
What's next for Buzz Solutions? What can we expect to see in the coming months?
We're really excited to be getting several of our customer stories out there now. We've been working with some amazing customers and partners over the past couple of years, and we're excited to be able to start to showcase some of the value that we're able to bring to the space. So definitely stay tuned for a lot of our new case studies that are coming out. And then we are continuing to expand our offerings, both with PowerAI and PowerGUARD in the market. And so we just launched a new version of our PowerAI platform that has a whole new user interface and experience. And that new version of our platform is based off 3 years of customer data and customer feedback. And so we're really excited to see that grow over the next couple months and get some of those stories out there. So definitely, looking forward to sharing those and continue to grow this year.
And for my final question, Kaitlyn, what message would you like to leave regarding the future of the drone industry?
There is so much opportunity and potential in the drone industry. And I think the sooner that we can learn how to use drones as a tool, the more it's going to set us up for success. And so I know that drones have been, kind of ebbed and flowed in the excitement and how utilities or how folks look to use technologies like drones to scale. And so I think the more we can learn, where are the best use cases for drone technology? How can we lean into those? And how can we successfully track the return on investment of building these types of programs? The faster we'll get to broad scale adoption. And I'm really excited to see where the industry is going to go as a whole.
That's it for episode 437 of the Drone Radio Show. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Kaitlyn Albertoli of Buzz Solutions. I want to thank Kaitlyn for taking the time to speak with me. If you want to learn more about Buzz Solutions or want to connect with Kaitlyn, check out the webpage at buzzsolutions.com. If you like the Drone Radio Show, then please subscribe and share. Write a glowing review. And if you're able, donate to keep the podcast going. Go to droneradioshow.com/donate. And thanks for listening. Your support means a lot to me, and I hope you'll listen to more episodes of the Drone Radio Show podcast to hear how others are using drones for business, fun, and research. For the Drone Radio Show, I'm Randy Gores.
This has been the Drone Radio Show podcast. More information on today's show can be found on our website at www.droneradioshow.com. If you're using drone technology for business, fun, or research and would like to share your experience on the show, please visit our website and fill out a guest appearance application. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite social media channels.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.